The Big Bang did not bang. It didn't roar into existence like an explosion. There was no sound, no blinding flash, no space to expand into, no before for it to come from. Just everything, everywhere, all at once, compressed into nothing. Then, without warning, without cause, the universe began. You might imagine a great detonation in a vast emptiness, a fireball hurling galaxies into the void. But that's not what happened. There was no outside to explode into. The universe wasn't expanding into space. Space itself was expanding, growing, stretching, inflating from a point smaller than an atom into everything you've ever known, and everything you never will. Time itself, what you feel ticking forward, was born in that instant. But what does it mean for time to have a beginning? Can something truly begin if there was no before? Sit with that for a moment. Let the contradiction settle into your bones. This isn't just a scientific riddle. It's a philosophical rupture in your very sense of existence. What if I told you that the universe didn't start from something, but rather as something, not an event, but a boundary, a condition, a state that simply was? You see, we've grown comfortable thinking of the cosmos as a place, something outside us, something we look up to. But what if space isn't a place at all? What if it's an illusion, a shifting stage built entirely of relationships between things, stars, galaxies? Imagine yourself floating, not in space, but in the absence of anything at all. No directions, no colors, no texture, no light. Just you and the overwhelming weight of nothingness. Then, suddenly, a ripple. Not a sound, but a distortion, a warping of the emptiness itself, a swelling. That's what our best minds think might have happened. Quantum fluctuations in a timeless void. Randomness birthing reality. And yet, randomness doesn't feel like an answer, does it? You crave a reason, a pattern, a why. But maybe that's the flaw. Expecting the universe to obey your sense of logic. Maybe existence doesn't owe you clarity. Maybe it is the question. Scientists will tell you the universe is 13.8 billion years old. That space is still expanding, faster, wider, colder. But expanding into what? Into nothing? How can something stretch if there's nowhere to stretch into? Think about blowing a balloon, not into a room, but into itself. Every point on its surface moves away from every other point. And yet, there is no center, no edge, no outside. Now, imagine that balloon in 4 dimensions. That's your universe. That's where you live. But here's where it gets stranger. What if the universe is infinite? Not just really big, but literally boundless, without edge, without limit, without a final frontier. Not expanding into something, but simply stretching within itself forever. No wall to reach, no end to find. Or worse, what if the universe is finite, and yet has no edge at all? Wrap your mind around that. A cosmos where you could fly in a straight line forever and never hit a wall, never find a barrier. Just return to where you started, like walking the curve of a giant sphere. Except this isn't a 2-dimensional Earth. This is a 4-dimensional space-time manifold, twisted in ways your brain wasn't built to comprehend. You might be thinking, if there's no edge, no border, then where does it end? But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe space doesn't end, because it never began. Maybe you're asking where the river ends while standing inside a whirlpool. There are moments in science when the data is clear, the math precise, but the meaning unspeakable. This is one of those moments. You're not standing on solid ground anymore. You're dangling on the edge of thought itself. And now, the real question burns into your mind. If space doesn't end, then where are you? What is this place? And why does it feel like the more you understand, the less real it becomes? In the beginning, if we can even call it that, the universe wasn't just hot. It was unimaginably hot. A roiling, dense ocean of pure energy. No stars, no galaxies, not even atoms. Just an endless sea of raw, seething potential. Imagine a flame so intense that it scorches time itself. A cosmic furnace where time was still learning to move, where space had no direction, no scale, only possibility. We call this the early universe, but don't let the phrase fool you. This wasn't a sunrise, it was a storm. Light could barely travel inches before slamming into particles, ricocheting in a chaotic dance of collisions. The universe was opaque, like the core of a star, blinding and blind. For nearly $380,000 years, light itself was trapped, caged by the very matter it was trying to escape. Then something changed. The universe cooled, just enough for protons and electrons to marry into atoms. That moment, called recombination, was the universe's first breath of transparency. Suddenly, photons were free. And those same ancient photons are still traveling today, stretched across billions of years, forming the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation itself. Scientists call it a snapshot. But that's too tame. It's not a picture. It's a whisper. A delicate echo from the deepest past, murmuring through space. When we map it, we don't see a perfect canvas. We see imperfections. Tiny temperature fluctuations, just one part in 100,000. But those tiny ripples, they became everything. Galaxies, stars, life, you. The laws that govern this evolution seem, at first, beautifully precise. Gravity pulls. Matter clumps. Stars ignite. Galaxies spin in elegant spirals. Order emerges from chaos. But look deeper, and a quiet tension forms, because the more we understand, the more the pieces don't quite fit. Take the speed of expansion. The universe is growing, yes, but faster than we predicted. The galaxies we observe are not just drifting apart, they're racing away. Accelerating. This shouldn't be happening. Gravity should be slowing everything down. Instead, it's as if some invisible hand is pushing space itself outward. We gave it a name. Dark energy. But naming a thing doesn't mean we understand it. Think about that. Roughly 70% of the universe is made of something we cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot explain. It doesn't glow. It doesn't clump. It's everywhere, and yet utterly alien. We only know it's there because of what it does. It stretches the cosmos like taffy pulled by invisible fingers. And then there's dark matter. Another ghost. It doesn't shine or reflect. It slips through our detectors like mist through a net. But galaxies spin too fast. Faster than they're visible. Mass allows. Without dark matter's hidden grip, they'd fly apart. So we trace its fingerprints through motion, like detectives chasing shadows on the wall. Even space itself is a mystery. We speak of space-time, Einstein's woven fabric of geometry and gravity. Mass bends space, and space tells mass how to move. It's elegant. It's poetic. But what is this fabric made of? What's beneath the weave? String theory suggests space might be built from vibrating loops, tiny strings resonating across unseen dimensions. Others propose that space is quantized, like pixels in a cosmic screen, with the Planck length being the smallest unit of reality. And still others argue space may not exist independently at all, that it emerges from more fundamental relationships, like heat from a crowd. So then, if space is emergent, what are we expanding into? This brings us to the paradox. If the universe is finite, it must have an edge, right? A place where it stops? But general relativity offers a stranger answer. The universe could be finite yet unbounded, like the surface of a sphere. Walk far enough, and you return to where you began. No edge, no wall, just endless curvature. But what about an infinite universe? One with no bounds and no end. If you traveled forever, would you pass by every possible configuration of atoms, of stars, of minds? Would you find another Earth, another you? Somewhere out there, in the cold darkness, could a mirror version of this moment be unfolding? Both scenarios, finite and infinite, are dizzying. Both stretch the limits of imagination. And yet, both may be wrong, because we haven't even mentioned inflation. Not the economic kind, but the earliest moment of all. A fraction of a second. After the Big Bang, the universe didn't just expand, it inflated, exponentially. A growth so fast, it would make the speed of light blush. In less than a blink, it ballooned in size, smoothing out its wrinkles and stretching quantum fluctuations across the sky. But here's the twist. Inflation may not have stopped. It might still be happening in other pockets of reality. A multiverse, where our universe is just one bubble in an infinite foam, each with its own laws of physics, its own versions of reality. We can't see them. We may never touch them. But the math suggests they could be real. And if that's true, then what is space? A hallway of doors will never open. A fractal of possibilities with no center, no end? You may start to feel it. Now, the crumbling of certainty. The boundaries you trusted, the edges between science and mystery, begin to blur. What we thought we knew about space now hangs suspended between data and doubt, between logic and awe. So we return to the question, does space ever end? And as we look deeper into the fabric of everything, we find something both exhilarating and terrifying. We don't know. Not yet. But perhaps the answer isn't at the edge of space. Perhaps it's buried in the nature of questions themselves. Time isn't flowing. That's not a metaphor. That's not poetry. That's what physics tells us. Imagine reality as a film, real, frame after frame after frame, each moment already etched into the strip. The past doesn't disappear. The future doesn't wait. It's all there, unchanging, immutable, eternally present. You don't move through time. Your consciousness animates one frame at a time, giving the illusion of motion. Like a projector casting light through a reel. This is the block universe, a theory where past, present, and future are equally real. You, sitting there now? Just one frame, already written, already existing. So, where does space go if time doesn't move? Maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe it simply is. Now imagine reaching the very first frame of that reel, the first moment, the place where the universe began. You'd expect a clean origin, Opacity, cosmic start. But what you find is something darker, stranger, a singularity. Not a place, but a failure of our understanding. A point where density becomes infinite, where gravity curls in on itself so violently that the equations break. Time shatters, space folds into a knot. Causality evaporates. We know these singularities exist because we see them in black holes, invisible beasts lurking in space, where not even light escapes. But here's the twist. The Big Bang may have been one, too. A white hole, the reverse of a black hole. Instead of pulling everything in, it pushed everything out. What if our universe was born from the death of another? What if every black hole contains the seed of a new cosmos, blooming in dimensions we can't access? Suddenly, the singularity isn't the end. It's a doorway, a womb, a rebirth. And that brings us to time loops. In Einstein's equations, time isn't a straight line. It's a curve. Under certain conditions, it can bend back on itself. Imagine taking a step forward and returning to your own past. You could shake your own hand, whisper into your earlier self's ear. But would that change the future or complete it? These are closed, timelike curves, mathematical paths that suggest time travel might be possible. Not in fantasy, but in physics. They haven't been proven, but they haven't been ruled out either. And if time can loop, what does that mean for space? Is the universe itself caught in an eternal cycle? Birth, death, rebirth, again and again? Not a line, but a spiral? There are hints, subtle fingerprints buried in cosmic background radiation that suggest this might be true, that the universe could collapse in on itself, then bounce outward again in a rhythmic beat, a cosmic breath, the Cyclic Universe. But now, imagine you're watching these loops from above, like an observer outside time. And suddenly, you notice something. Each cycle is slightly different. Some universes are heavy, others light. Some last mere seconds, others trillions of years. Some are filled with stars, others nothing but darkness. That's when you realize you're not watching one universe repeating itself. You're watching infinite universes being born. This is the multiverse, the idea that our cosmos is just one bubble in a vast eternal foam, a sea of universes. Some like ours, some radically different. In one, gravity is weak. In another, time runs backwards. In another, stars never formed. And in some, perhaps many, there is no life, no light, only silence. It sounds like science fiction, but it isn't. Inflation theory, the very model that best explains the early moments of our universe, naturally leads to this idea. As inflation ends in one region, it continues in others. New universes pop into existence endlessly, each with their own laws, their own space, their own time. And here's the truly terrifying part. If inflation never ends, if it's still bubbling, new universes even now, then our universe is not the center of anything. It's a flicker, a ripple in a far greater sea. And yet, you are here, conscious, aware, wondering, why this universe? Why now? That's where quantum mechanics crashes into the stage. Because in the quantum world, nothing is certain. Reality is a wave of probabilities until someone observes it. You don't see an electron at a place. You see the likelihood of it being there. And it's only when you look, when you measure, that the wave collapses into one reality. Some physicists believe this collapse doesn't destroy the other possibilities. It just shuffles you into the version where that outcome happened. You didn't choose an outcome. You split. The universe forked, and another version of you took the other path. This is the many worlds interpretation. Every decision, every quantum interaction, birthing new realities like branches on an endless tree. If true, then space doesn't just expand outward, it expands inward, into possibility itself. You're not just in space. You are space. You are one outcome in an infinite matrix of versions of you, scattered across universes like stars. So what happens when we zoom all the way out? Is there a boundary to this multiversal expanse? A final edge where the foam ends? No one knows, and that's what makes this journey so exhilarating. Every step forward into space takes us further from certainty. Every question answered births 1,000 new riddles. What is the shape of all that exists? Is the multiverse curved? Infinite? Fractal? Does it loop back on itself? Like time? Or does it unfurl endlessly? A cascade of realities spilling from an origin we'll never reach? There's no final word. Not yet. Only this haunting realization. The deeper we dive into space, the more we realize it might never have a bottom. You've followed the threads, from singularities to time loops, from multiverses to the birth of space itself. You've listened closely, perhaps with curiosity, perhaps with wonder. But now comes the part that stays with you, not in your head, in your bones. Because what happens when you step back, far back, and absorb the scale of everything you've just seen, is not just awe, it's dread. The kind of dread that doesn't come from monsters or ghosts. This is deeper, older, cosmic. You exist on a dust grain, a single speck of life, floating in the black breath between galaxies. Earth is smaller than a punctuation mark in the book of the universe. And you? You are a thought, a flicker, a flash of neurons pretending to make sense of an ocean too vast to see. If time is an illusion, then everything you've ever done, every decision, every heartbreak, every breath, might have already happened. Not once, not twice, but infinite times. And if the multiverse is real, then there are other yous living out every possibility you've never touched. The life where you made that call, where you stayed, where you left, where you never existed at all. And yet, this is the version you're in. Why? What decided this moment? You might start to feel it now. The universe breathing around you, not as a distant cold vacuum, but as something conscious, not with thoughts like ours, not with intention or malice, but something deeper, something vast, something alive. What if the universe is alive? What if it grows and thinks and evolves? And we are its briefest whispers, its flickering neurons, carrying questions it never dared ask? We imagine ourselves as observers of the cosmos, but what if we're part of the cosmos observing itself? What if your consciousness is not a mistake, but the only way the universe can ever know it exists? And here's the darkest question of all. What if we were never meant to know any of this? What if our minds were built for fire and stories and survival? But now, we've opened a door into a realm that doesn't care we exist. We've built equations that scrape the edge of creation. We've stared too long into the deep, and the deep has noticed. We are infants, staring into the abyss and daring to ask what it is. And in that daring, in that reaching, we awaken something. Not a monster, not a God, but a truth so vast it strips meaning from everything. If the universe is infinite, and time is a loop, and reality is one of countless versions, then what is purpose? What is the point of choosing, of dreaming, of loving? If somewhere another version of you will always undo it. Do you matter? Does anything? Maybe. Maybe that's the gift buried in the terror. The universe may not care, but you do. And in a reality that gives you nothing, that might be the only thing that matters. Maybe your fear is proof that you are real, that your soul is more than chemistry, more than space-time, that against all odds, in the middle of a cold, expanding dark, you looked up and asked why. No other creature we know has done that. You are the question the universe keeps asking itself. And maybe, just maybe, you are also the answer. Imagine everything you've just learned. The loops of time, the breathing of space, the shadows of the multiverse, compressing into a single moment. One last inhale before the final breath of understanding. Or perhaps something far beyond understanding. Because here it is, the twist you never expected. What if the universe is already dead? And what we're experiencing now is just the afterglow, not a moment in life, but a flickering echo in the ashes of something that's already ended. The stars? Fossils of long-extinguished fires. Time? A stretched-out illusion, like the last vibrations of a bell struck long ago, still ringing across them. The void. Even consciousness. Your consciousness could be nothing more than a residual flicker in a decaying hologram, a ripple in space's memory of what once was. This isn't fantasy. It's called the heat death, a theoretical fate where the universe expands so far, so endlessly, that all usable energy is lost. No stars, no planets, no heat, just silence. Cold, dark, uniform nothing. But here's where it becomes terrifying. Some physicists believe we might already be in that future, that the universe has ended, and everything you see, feel, or remember is part of a holographic projection, a mirage created by quantum fluctuations or information remnants stored on the very edges of existence. In this theory, the real universe is gone, and we are echoes. The moment of realization isn't quiet. It's cinematic, explosive. You see galaxies twisting in slow ballet, their arms scattering stardust into black oceans. You watch nebulae ignite, only to be swallowed by darkness. You see civilizations blink into being, learn to ask questions, then vanish without answers. You zoom out further, past galactic filaments, past the edge of the observable, and see nothing. Not because there's nothing left, but because there's nothing still happening. Everything that will be already was. But maybe that's what eternity looks like. Maybe we exist in the folds of a collapsed universe, and in those folds, life still burns. Memory still loops. Consciousness still searches. And so we ask again, does space ever end? What if the very question is flawed? Because space, like time, may be less of a thing and more of a story. A narrative the universe tells itself so that something, anything, can exist for even a moment. Maybe the cosmos isn't a place you live in, but a question you are. You see, now, all along, you weren't just watching the universe. The universe was watching you. And somewhere out there, in another strand of time, in another curl of space, A version of you is watching this video right now, asking the same question, feeling the same chill, staring into the same impossible dark. Not the end, not the beginning, just one thought in an eternal mind, wondering if it's the only one. And maybe, just maybe, it's not. You've traveled light years in thought, from the chaotic first breath of the cosmos to the cold whisper of its possible death, from singularities that destroy space and time, to theories where everything, even you, exists infinitely elsewhere. You've peered beyond galaxies, through time loops, into the mouth of the multiverse. You've stood on the edge of existence, where questions replace answers, and wonder outweighs understanding. And now, here you are, still asking, still listening, still alive. We began with a question: does space ever end? And after tens of thousands of words, after diving through physics, philosophy, and the raw fabric of existence itself, we leave with a truth far stranger than any answer. Space may not have an edge. Time may not have a flow. You may not be what you think you are. And that's not a tragedy. That's a revelation. Because in a universe that defies definition, you are more than a passenger. You are a participant, a rare mind capable of looking into the void and wondering. In the silence between galaxies, you dared to ask, what else? So don't stop now. Keep asking. Keep searching. Keep imagining possibilities the universe hasn't even thought of yet. Discuss it. Debate it. Let the conversation ripple from your screen to your thoughts, to your friends, to the farthest corners of your curiosity. Maybe the universe isn't something to explain, but something to explore, again and again, with new eyes each time. And before you go, consider this final question. What if space isn't out there, but in you? What if the real frontier is your mind? The only place vast enough to hold the infinite, that would mean the universe hasn't ended. It's just begun. And you are the one writing what comes next. The universe may have no end, but maybe neither do you.